Welcome to The Bone, the podcast that goes deeper. Here we cut through the noise and get straight to the core of the issues that matter. From real stories to raw truths, we dive deep into the conversations that shape our world and challenge our thinking. We're not afraid to dig in and get to the marrow of it all. Whether it's life, culture, or business in sports medicine, we're here to break it down raw and real. No filters, no fluff, just to the bone. With your host, Shelby Daly, we're getting to the bone. This is a clinically pressed, approved CEU podcast. Find the quiz to gain credit at clinicallypressed.org/courses. Clinically Pressed Company, making the complicated simple through results that give back. Find out more at clinicallypressed.org. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Bone. Today we're joined by Kyle Peckham, a certified athletic trainer and the creator of AT Finder, a new platform designed to connect athletic trainers with job opportunities, events, and professional networks in a smarter, faster way. As athletic training continues to evolve, access to flexible work and professional connections is more important than ever. Kyle's vision with AT Finder is to modernize how ATs find opportunities and how employers find the right talent, while keeping our profession connected and moving forward. So welcome to the show, Kyle.
Thanks, Shelby. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so you've kind of exploded on the web with your new platform. So let's get to the basics. What is AT Finder and what inspired you to create it?
Yeah, so AT Finder it's a centralized platform for athletic trainers to find jobs and also for employers to get their jobs out there for athletic trainers to find. And it's something that flips over week, so athletic trainers can kind of see what's going on a week-to-week basis and stay up to date. It's a little bit different than your standard job board in that way that it is something that is kind of an active list. It's something that athletic trainers can utilize from a week-to-week basis. I'll be putting out monthly things, kind of summarizing where the market's going and where it's been over the last month. So it's just something, a different way for people to find jobs and to try and make it a little bit more accessible for everybody.
Yeah. So what sparked this idea? What was the frustration you saw, and how did this idea come about?
It's kind of a two-sided approach. Like in the past, when I've been looking for roles, you really, unless you're looking on NATA or you're digging through LinkedIn, it's really kind of difficult to maybe find some of these diamond in the rough jobs. And I think that some of the employers don't even know where to post jobs a lot of the time. So in my role in Vermont, I'm the secondary school chair for the Vermont Association of Athletic Trainers. So a lot of the athletic directors in the area will ask me like, hey, where can I get my job seen by athletic trainers? We're currently in a little bit of a tough situation where we don't have a ton of athletic trainers in the state to meet the demand. So they're really trying to find a way to attract people and get people in from, maybe outside the state. So really their options are post on NATA, put it on Indeed or School Spring, and hope that somebody will come across it. And I think with NATA, you have to be a member in order to access that portal. And if you look at the membership numbers over the past few years, like half the athletic trainers out there that are certified aren't members of the NATA, so they're not even accessing that job board. So I think for me, it was just like, okay, how can we make this information more accessible to everybody? And beyond that, we're looking at like, okay, we need the most information available to us to make the best decision on, what job is best for us. So let's get as much of that information out to athletic trainers so they can look at, what salaries are looking like across their settings. Are there different settings that are paying more than others? Are the benefits different in different settings? So really, I'm just trying to give as much information as I can so athletic trainers can be educated in making those decisions. And hopefully, in the future, that will drive the profession forward in increasing the salaries that we have. And athletic trainers will feel more empowered to maybe not accept a job that they would have otherwise.
Yeah. So do you really groom the job poster on the information that they're supposed to put? And do you do any education on standards of pay?
I would say for the featured listings and things like that, I definitely have deeper conversations. It's still, we've been doing this for 5 weeks now. So a lot of what I'm doing is going out and grabbing those job postings and then trying to curate the information in a digestible way for the athletic trainers, and also try and make it as robust as I can. So I would say if somebody's engaging with me in terms of like how can we make this a better posting, or what are the things that athletic trainers are looking for, we definitely, I will point them in the right direction. I'll ask the questions about like what sticks out, like those pointed questions that they might not even be thinking about, that athletic trainers are really looking for those specific benefits, or what pieces of those settings might be more attractive to somebody as opposed to others. So I would say, yeah, that's where it's going to go. I'm hoping, I'm hoping I get more engagement out of the employer side. The athletic training side's been great so far. I've had a lot of athletic trainers hopping on the platform and sending, the positive messages like, this is awesome. So it's been really, kind of humbling in that regard. But yeah.
So I know from my experience, I've heard a lot of complaints about NATA posting jobs that are well below the threshold of what is expected. Do you not post those type of jobs, or how do you go about that when the pay range is much lower than expected?
Yeah, so I think it's good to have all of the information in front of you to some degree. So I will say, like, there was a position in Major League Baseball, a couple weeks ago that I purposely chose not to post because it was $15.15 an hour for a certified athletic trainer. But I did make sure to mention in my newsletter that week that was out there, and because I think people need to understand, like, this is where things are at. I don't have a problem posting it. It's only there for a week. And I think that people need to see the full picture. But at the same time, the difference from my perspective is I'm going to call it out, right? So in my newsletter, if I see things like that or patterns that are coming up, I'm going to make a point to say like, hey, this is not what we would be expecting out of this type of role, and point out the reasons why. So whether that be, you compare it to the MIT living wage, you are looking at it from an hours perspective, all of those kind of things will play into it, but it's making sure that there's context beyond it. I think too much we are sitting behind our keyboards in this current climate that we're at, and we're saying like, complaining about it, but we're not really doing anything to make a difference, right? But at the same time, I get frustrated when I see athletic trainers who are in a good position who are ridiculing other athletic trainers, saying, don't take this position if you're worth more than that. The individual is the person that needs to make the decision. If the decision is between $0 and being unemployed and having a little bit where they're putting food on the table until they're able to find that next position, like, who am I to say you shouldn't take this role? Or everybody's situation is different. Like, there might be some people who are in a better financial situation that are just looking to get a little bit of experience in a certain setting. They're trying to network so they can get to that next step. So I'm not going to ever ridicule somebody for taking one of those positions, but I'm also going to say, like, if that position doesn't go filled, I'm not surprised. Like, there's reasons for that. So I guess that's kind of the approach that I take with.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I think we need to have a mini course in economics in the athletic training education system. It's a supply and demand situation where if they're not offering enough, the demand is going to increase in how much they're going to pay out for it to get the supply of athletic trainers. And also the opportunity cost you're talking about is, if my job site is, the middle school that's literally a block away and they're paying just a little bit lower than the school that's half an hour away, there is an opportunity cost of, the gas and time that it takes to get into that college that's half an hour away, rather than I'm right there, it's a 2-minute commute to work. So that's where my perception has changed a bit, and why I've never really gone on about bashing employers, because the cost of business is so expensive these days. So, we look at these college universities, pro sports, where it seems like they're making a lot of money, but if you actually understand the business structure of it, the money is going to a lot of different things and it gets spread out very quickly. So that's where, even if you wanted to start your own business, I don't think a lot of athletic trainers understand the cost to pay employees, not just the dollar amount, but the taxes, all the supportive resources. You have to have some sort of HR. That's where I get frustrated when people start calling out these ADs and stuff online, is I don't first think that public shaming is the best way to go after it. we are master's level educated professionals. I think there are better ways to go about it. And the best way is, it may not go anywhere, but if you are actually trying to contact the HR department or the hiring committee to educate them, I think that makes a bigger difference and creates a bridge rather than just, this is too low. Like, what are you doing? This is unresponsible at this point. Because that's when I went into my doctorate. I wanted to create an equation of how do you put in all these different variables to make up an athletic trainer's salary? Because, working in California where the minimum FLSA is $68,000, I think, a year ago, to somewhere where it's a federal minimum of $34,000. You have to put in all the variables of even just the education, time in the profession, certifications, specialties, somehow to figure out how productive you are. I don't like the bashing of how people are doing business. Somebody's going to take it. That's their choice at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And I think, the thing, I've had conversations with employers too, kind of along those lines, where it's like, is there a scale that you guys utilize to determine where somebody falls within your range? Because I see a lot of different ranges. Some of them are really tight. Some of them are really broad. Like they could go from $50,000 up to $90,000 or $100,000. And it's like, people don't know where they're going to land on that. So if they're thinking they're going to be on the lower end, they might be less inclined to apply. If they think they're going to be on the higher end, they're going to be really disappointed when they find out they're not. So it's like one of those catch-22s for these employers to really try and figure out, like, how can I best pass the message along of what the expectation is going to be for this position. But I do think that if the more information that's out there, the more that they're able to maybe standardize those things, the better transparency. And I think it will ultimately result in them having a better opportunity to land an athletic trainer if they're struggling to do so.
Yeah. Well, and I think athletic trainers are too humble most of the time. We want to just get in and get the work done and make people better and make sure that they're playing. And we don't have those skills or strong enough skills to really negotiate and provide examples of why we are qualified for those higher ranges. I know there's a title chasing culture where new grads want to work professional or those higher D1 positions. So they're really just trying to get their foot in the door at the end of the day. So they're willing to take those lower paying jobs because it's their professional goal to get to a certain setting. And I don't think it's bad to bash them on that either. But I mean, I do feel that those institutions should be able to pay more. But, you're going to have to sit down and look at the books too of how they're budgeting things.
Yeah. And I think just in looking over the past month, when I broke down the jobs that have come across, I'm looking at median salaries. The college setting was at the bottom compared to all of the other settings, which, I think they utilize the prestige of the traditional setting or working with these big programs to try to attract athletic trainers. So I think they maybe feel like they can still get away with paying lower, and people are sometimes taking those positions. But I think in some of the smaller schools, what they're finding is there's a bit of an attrition right now where athletic trainers are getting recruited out into the industrial or the military setting. And they're like, what do we do? The military setting is paying, $20,000 more from a median salary perspective. And, how can we compete with that? And it's a drastic change, right? So it's something that's happening in real time, and their budgets are set once a year. So I think it's a really, bit of a challenge for them. And you're going to see a lot more, per diem type of positions in colleges to try and weather that storm to get through the year. But it's not ultimately the best situation for those programs in terms of athlete care.
Yeah. Well, and I'm blanking on who wrote the article, but they did a study on how often athletic trainers negotiate their salaries at point of hire and then after they were hired. And it was in a very low number of people that actually challenged the offer that was offered. And then after that, it was very low on who actually renegotiated their salaries. So that's the way that you actually increase the standard of pay, is that you keep going after it. You don't get comfortable after you get hired. I think most people have the perception that right when you're hired, you have the most leverage to get the position, but I think you get more leverage after the position because you can provide data points. However you may do it, debated on what the best data points are, but there's Preventix. It's a new platform that actually kind of helps monitor productivity of the athletic trainer on how well they're treating people, not just the ROI and cost savings. And I think that's something that will be interesting to look at once we get more data points from that platform. So I think we're in a interesting time of athletic training that I think there's a lot of energy of trying to make it better, which is cool.
Yeah, and I think, I think when you are applying for new jobs, sometimes you do get some more leverage that you can negotiate with your current employer, right? So for employers, it costs more to hire somebody new to go out there, post the job. Sometimes they have to pay recruiters. Like things like that are going to be a larger hit on their budget than trying to retain an athletic trainer. Now, part of that is like having them buy into that same thought process and making sure that like they value, retaining their athletic trainers. But if you can go to them and say like, hey, I've got this job offer at this other place for this much money, are you able to meet me? I'd rather stay here. I'm enjoying this position, and just have a really matter of fact and frank conversation with them. I think more often than not, you'll find that you're going to get what you're looking for in that negotiation, or at least it's starting the conversation towards where you're looking to go.
Athletic trainers, you've got a plan for everything. But when seconds count, is your emergency action plan as ready as you are? Meet Easy EAP, the digital emergency action plan app built specifically for athletics. Easy EAP puts your EAPs right at your fingertips on your phone, tablet, or laptop, so you can act fast, stay compliant, and keep your athletes safe. Update protocols in real time, share with staff instantly, send mass alerts, and carry every venue's plan in your pocket. No more binders, no more digging. It's time to modernize your emergency prep. Visit easyeap.com and be ready for anything. Easy EAP, your plan when it matters most.
Are you an athletic training student dreading the BOC exam? After years of school and thousands of dollars of tuition, you shouldn't have to rely on outdated flashcards, expensive textbooks, or pen and paper practice tests that look nothing like the real computerized exam. That's where AT Study Buddy comes in. Created by athletic trainers for athletic training students, AT Study Buddy is the online study platform built for today's tech-savvy learners. You'll get 7 full-length practice exams that feel just like the real BOC, plus 10 domain-specific tests and more than 250 interactive study tools like drag and drops, flashcards, anatomy hotspots, and fill-in-the-blank modules. You can retake exams, review your results, and actually track your progress. And the best part, AT Study Buddy users consistently report first-time pass rates above the national average. Students, educators, international professionals transitioning to the US, and even certified athletic trainers coming back from lapses are using it to step confidently into the next phase of their careers. For about the price of a single practice test, you get a full month of unlimited access, or ask your program about discounted group license with faculty dashboards that help support your success. Study smarter, not harder. With AT Study Buddy, your journey to certification starts here. Yeah. So not that we're ending the conversation here. The future of your platform, do you think you're going to start putting educational resources for athletic trainers to start look into on how to manage their professional relationship with their employer?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's the sky's the limit from my perspective. I don't really, we're 5 weeks in, as I said, so there's a lot of things that I would like to do in terms of like executing on that. I think there are a few steps that I would want to take before I'm really able to dive in and focus on the educational side of things. It's really right now focusing on getting the job board out there, making the information publicly available to people, connecting with the employers on the back end and having those conversations from my perspective of like, that's how I can try and propel this profession forward. I think from my perspective, a lot of the pain points that people are having are struggles with how to make and get to where they want to be in their career, but they don't really know necessarily how to, or how to ask the question, or they might not be as comfortable having that conversation with an employer because they have a little bit more to lose. Whereas from my perspective, I can talk to those employers all day long. Like the only thing that they want from me is to have their jobs available and public facing, and I don't want a job from them, right? So it's more just really trying to propel the profession forward and be in a kind of that neutral position where, I can speak to both sides of it. I can speak to an athletic trainer and say, hey, look, like their budget is this, like if it's not going to be a fit for you, then you should move on and try and find a better position that fits better with what you're looking for. And I can also say to an employer, like, your job's been posted for 2 years and you haven't had a single applicant. Like, maybe you should think about changing what you're doing, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So whether that be increasing salary, providing a bonus, advertising the job in a different way, there are many things that people can do to make a job look more attractive rather than just continuing to post the same stale, job description on SchoolSpring or LinkedIn.
Yeah. So can you walk us through the platform function? So you've mentioned that you only keep postings up for a week at this time.
Yeah.
Is there any reason for that, or you're just waiting for them to start paying?
Yeah, so that's part of it. So, I mean, in order to do this, like, it is a passion project. I don't expect to get rich on this at all, in order to, like, my worth. And I feel like I'm providing a service to both sides of the market. I think in order to have the job stick on there a little bit longer, I am going to ask for the employer to pay. I will never, and I will say this, I will never charge an athletic trainer to access the board ever. I think that's something from my perspective that like, fundamentally, I think if you're looking to hire somebody, like, you're getting more of a value out of that in the long term if somebody is able to, take that job on for you. I think, the employers expect, like, that's kind of the cost of doing business and hiring to some degree. But athletic trainers, you're just looking to provide a service. You're looking to do a job and serve your patients. And I think, I don't want to ever charge somebody for information on that. So that's one thing I will say is, like, athletic trainers will always have access to this platform free of charge in terms of getting that information. The weekly switch, I think if you don't keep jobs current, things get stale. They sit there. The quality of the information, or the quality of the ability to get through it and get through and find what you're looking for, it gets that much more difficult. Like, if you go on Indeed, for instance, like, there are companies that post many, many jobs, but they're bogged down and they're confusing, right? So it's like, what am I actually applying for? I don't want my job board to look that way. I want it to be pretty concise. I want everybody to be able to look at the jobs and see it for what it is, and have maybe some different insights that other job boards wouldn't provide. So if you actually click on my summaries that I put in there, it's like, maybe, what are some food for thought type of questions that you could ask the employer, or you should be thinking about heading into applying or into an interview. And also, like, what are some of the things that stick out in terms of would make this job attractive to somebody. I think the 1 week thing is probably going to be a hard and fast thing that I'm going to continue. And then, if companies want to have their positions, stay there or be more frontward facing, then there is kind of going to be a cost for that. So that's kind of the way that I've approached kind of building this.
Yeah. So when an athletic trainer enters a site, what can they expect when they enter it?
Yeah, so the newsletters are going to be kind of at the bottom of that front page. I have some subscriber links, so you can subscribe to that newsletter. I send it out every Monday. But if you want to look at the blog, it's kind of down at the bottom. You can look at and see what I've posted over the last few weeks and take a look. I basically do a brief overview of kind of what I'm seeing in the market for the week. I highlight, a handful of jobs that I think are good opportunities that would warrant people to to take a look at. And then sometimes I'll mix it up. So there might be some jobs that are on the market where I'm like, this just isn't going to fly, and I'll highlight those. There might be some interesting things happening. Like this past week, for instance, like the Aiken County schools in South Carolina choosing to up their salaries by $9,000 and add on, the $5,000 bonus. Like clearly, we're in that situation that we were talking about where supply and demand's taking over. And I did like that it was getting highlighted. At the same time, I think that should be common practice. Like, I don't think it should be this big, noteworthy thing. I think these are things that need to be happening on a regular weekly basis where we don't need to make a big post about it. It's just like, that's just the market doing what it's supposed to do. So, there are things that I'll post in there, interesting things that I've seen in the week. And then there's a link to the job board, which has all of the jobs that I curated for the week. And you can, click on and search through that. I have it currently set up where you can filter it by setting, state, and job type. So I think it's a usable thing. I will say with everything that I do, right now, it's in the worst format that it will ever be. It's always going to continue to get better. So I am committed to working through on that. But right now, I think, it seems to be useful. There's a lot of people that are tuning in every week. The click-through rates and the engagement on the newsletter from the subscriber perspective has been awesome. Like, especially if you stack it up to your standard newsletters. When I'm sending this out, people are actually opening it and reading it. It's not something where somebody subscribes and then they're not, you don't look at it. You just leave it in your inbox or you delete it. Like, people are opening it, people are clicking through, and they're seeing these jobs, which is awesome to see.
That's great. Yeah, I think the South Carolina instance, I think it proves that NATA is not going to bring change for compensation standards. I think they can still provide resources or better resources. But I know I highlighted the South Carolina increase in pay for the high school athletic trainers in that area. And it's the local community, local government, or even just the individual conversations. That's where you're going to get the most change. And I think that circles back to what we were talking before, is the public shaming is not going to do anything. The market's already fluctuating and struggling. It's really getting in and educating and having those personal conversations to get the change that we want. So I am hoping that it's not just these big flashy headlines and it does become more normal. But at this point, it's local government's going to get the biggest bang for your buck for advocacy for your athletic training setting in your local area. So just a plug for that.
It's grassroots, right? I mean, I don't think it's necessarily, this is my opinion, it's one person's opinion, but I think NATA is awesome for their advocacy, on the governmental affairs front. Like, there are things that they have done that have pushed this profession forward that, if they didn't put the resources into those places, like it wouldn't have happened. But I think on a micro standpoint, like, you at your local level have more power to change decisions or have those conversations with the people who are making the decisions, far more than what the NATA is ever going to be able to do, right? Like, this is a massive organization that is here to, support the profession. But when it comes to the day-to-day, like, I think we need to take some ownership on ourselves and say, like, what can I do to make this better for me? And what can I do to maybe make this better for the other athletic trainers who are in the area? Because I think it's going to take more than just, a national organization that's run by, the majority volunteers. We have to kind of do this work on our own in the day-to-day to really make an impact.
Yep. So just a funny question for the future of this platform. Do you see it being almost a matchmaking service at some point where athletic trainers can post their resume and profile and there's some algorithm that matches people with the perfect job?
Yeah. So swipe left, swipe right on the job, so to speak.
Tinder.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I think it is a fun idea. What I'm seeing, though, what I'll be honest, like, if you look at the Jobs for Athletic Training board on Facebook, for instance, a lot of new grads and people coming out are posting anonymously. So it's like, I don't know the function behind that. Maybe they don't want to be inundated with recruiters, or they're nervous to put their name out there or something like that. So I think technically, maybe 20 years down the road, like, maybe that might be too far with the way that technology moves. But, I think it's possible. I think From my perspective, I think we can probably make some strides towards having those conversations with employers first. And then, yeah, I think from the athletic training side of things, like building a community is something that is on, my horizon, so to speak. I would love to have a community within the platform where athletic trainers can kind of have conversations or share things. But I would want to get feedback from the audience before doing anything like that, because I think, it would have to be something that athletic trainers want and are going to grab onto. So it sounds cool in practice. It would just be a lot of things that we would have to kind of go through to determine the logistics of how that could work.
Yeah, Valentine's Day is around the corner, so thought I'd throw it out there. So what's one piece of advice you'd give to athletic trainers who are trying to take control of their career paths?
Yeah, I would say that first and foremost, have an honest conversation with yourself about what you want and where you would like to go. Because if you don't have a clear path of where you want to be, you aren't going to be able to really figure out which path is the best way to get there. And then from there, figure out what is the information that I need to arm myself with, and what types of things can I do on a daily basis, get 1% better to achieve that ultimate goal. So whether that be, looking and educating yourself on what the market is around you, or figuring out, who do I need to talk to maybe make a connection to get to where I want to be. I think the athletic training community is small, and I think people are more than willing to talk to you, if you're an up and coming athletic trainer, and they're in a position that you want to get to. Like at one point they were sitting in your position, and oftentimes it's the mentors that help them get to where they are, and they want to give back. We aren't in this profession to, for self-gain in a lot of ways. We're there to help people, and that means both our patients and other athletic trainers as well. So I think not being afraid to reach out to people, but really ironing down, like, what is it that you want? Like, what are the things that you value in your career, and in your life, and how can, what path can you take to really get those things and what you want?
Yeah, definitely. Making that list of pros and cons for a job, or what you want from the experience too. I think that's great for negotiating power also. But yeah. So anything we missed in this whole description of what you're doing?
Just give me a second. This is one of those things I got to think about.
Nope, you're good.
I think what other stuff we would want to hit on. I don't really have anything at the moment that's really super pressing. I think I'm excited for the amount of engagement that we've had, and I'm hoping that only continues. And I think ultimately this profession's awesome because we are in it for the right reasons a lot of the time. But I think to some degree we struggle for that same reason, right? Like we struggle to advocate for ourselves in a lot of situations, and it ultimately burns us out. So we got to do a better job of really making sure we're taking care of ourselves and each other from that perspective.
Definitely. Well, and I'm hoping that with all the data that you're collecting, I'll have you on in the near future, and we can talk more about the trends that you're seeing and the new offerings that you're providing on your platform also. So just let me know when you want to be on to talk more.
Yeah, absolutely. By the time this thing airs, I'll probably have posted the January summary. So, feel free to take a look, and see. It's for informational purposes only, obviously. There's nothing crazy scientific about it. It's just, what I'm seeing and what the data is kind of pointing to. But again, there's not really a study design set up here. It's just for informational purposes so people can kind of see what's going on.
Perfect. Well, we'll have you on in the future, and thank you so much for coming on.
Looking forward to it. Have a good one.
You too.
That's it for today's episode of To the Bone. I hope we've sparked some new thoughts, challenged your perspectives, or simply reminded you to dig a little deeper. Remember, life isn't just about what's on the surface. Sometimes you've got to cut deeper and get to the bone of what really matters. To the Bone podcast is a product of Daly LLC. It's hosted and produced by Shelby Daly, ATC, and Randy Daly. No clinical decision-making should be based solely on one source. While care is taken to ensure accuracy, factual errors can be present. For more on the show, visit www.tothebonepodcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Get involved in the conversation. You can find us at www.tothebonepodcast.com. Drop us topic suggestions or be a potential guest. We're all about connecting with you, our listeners. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded,